All right, welcome to the Experience Better video podcast series. I'm Josh Beekler, PT, and with me today, Jeff Gossman, physical therapist here at the Sports Clinic. And today we're going to talk about overhead athlete injuries, overhead athletes in general. Kind of what are things you see out there?
Very common, especially nowadays. We see a lot of shoulder pain, actually younger and younger. And what it has to do with more than anything is the fact that, specialization of sport at an early age. Kids are playing baseball, not for 3 months a year, but they're playing it year round. On top of that, they're also adding in a second or third sport. So sometimes they're playing 2 sports at a time, 12 months a year. For these overhead athletes, you see it in baseball, softball, quarterbacks, volleyball players as well. A lot of it's just that overused repetitive movement. The biggest risk is pitchers in baseball. It's such a high velocity movement. It just puts a lot of stress on the shoulder itself. So when someone comes in here, typically we see them when they're having shoulder pain or elbow pain. Shoulder pain is better than elbow pain. If you're seeing shoulder pain, that's kind of that early onset where you're first starting to see the symptoms. If it's getting to the elbow, then they're probably a little further along that journey down the road to an injury. So we try to do a lot of preventative care if we can, educate the coaches, educate the players on different exercises they can do, looking at muscle imbalances they may have, but then also talking about pitch counts, adequate rest periods, and alleviating the symptoms before they go to throw again. Too many times they're having this pain and they go right back out and they throw another bullpen session. Then the pain just continues to snowball and get worse. But when someone does come in, one thing we really look at is, if someone's right hand dominant, for example, they're going to have a lot of external rotation, range of motion, be able to cock that ball back really far versus their non-dominant side. Over time, you just get biological changes in that shoulder, and you can tell. Famously, a few years ago, Barack Obama threw out a first pitch at a game. They compared that to like George Bush throwing out the first pitch. George Bush grew up playing baseball. He was able to get that nice throwing motion, throw a strike. Obama never played baseball. And when he went to throw it, he couldn't cock that ball back. So he kind of short-armed it and he couldn't get it to home plate. And I usually use that for example for people, then they can kind of understand, or even if they try throwing with their non-dominant side, you kind of feel like you're doing one of these and look pretty uncoordinated. And a lot of that is just because you don't have that external range of motion. But what we do is we look at that external rotation, range of motion, add on their internal range of motion. And people often traditionally have thought, their internal rotation is lacking, so they need to just stretch that all day long. But what you should do is add up those two numbers. So if they have 120 going back and only 60 going down, well, this side they have 90 and 90. Those are still equal to 180 degrees. Where there's an issue is if you start getting over about a 5-degree difference, especially from if you're lacking on your throwing side, you're at a higher risk there. So that's just one of the things we look at, along with a few other things. But a big thing that you do see mostly too is a lot of weakness, especially in between the shoulder blades in the back, that control the shoulder blade, that deceleration phase of throwing, be able to slow your arm down. Is where a lot of the injuries occur, because guys just don't have that control, and the more that they continue to throw and throw, you're just straining it more and more and more to where you're seeing a lot of the UCL injuries, your ulnar collateral ligament, Tommy John surgery is what everyone knows it as. And in the past, a lot of major league pitchers were actually excited when they get that because they could actually throw harder afterwards.
It's more stable almost,
Yes. Which in the past, guys that had that surgery though were later in their careers. Now you're seeing 18 to 20-year-olds having that surgery. Research has shown with that your odds of actually making it to the minors or majors if you have that surgery that young are pretty minimal to none. So educating them on that is huge as well. But overall, the best course of action is preventative care, and we'll continue to try to educate the coaches and players as much as we can.
Because it really seems like, we certainly don't encourage the year-round playing. You need rest breaks, and you need to do different things. But the reality is it happens, and it really seems to happen. So if it's going to happen, you really got to do prevention. You really got to do rest between sessions, and listen to your body, listen to your coaches, listen to the health providers, health professionals like Jeff here, that can give you some great advice on making sure you can continue to play sports you love to play. So
yeah, that's our whole goal: keeping people on the field feeling good, pain free, and also a lot of the times when we do prevent some of this stuff and work with kids, our young athletes, you actually see an increase in their velocity.
Sure.
So that's a big selling point to a lot of these pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
And if they hear 3 to 5 miles an hour faster and they can throw that much faster without pain, they kind of ask themselves why they didn't start doing it sooner.
Sure. So you actually teach them overhead camps and that kind of stuff throughout the year. So.
Yeah, we do provide some camps. Try to get that preventative care in early. Really trying to get guys that have symptoms in here before the injury actually occurs, and most of the time we're actually able to prevent that injury from happening.
Sure. So if anybody's interested in going to one of those camps, how do they find out about them?
They can go online to Grand Island Physical Therapy and the website, and from there you can go to the Central Nebraska Athletic Academy, and there should be some contact information from there where you could reach out either via email or phone call, and we will set you up.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Jeff, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you.